Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to look at a thing called the True Heart Intuitive Tarot by Rachel True. And I just want to say before I start that this was just like left out for me as a gift by my flatmate when he went away to Italy. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't want to inquire too strictly as to where it comes from, but I have a feeling it might not be the proper edition. So that means that maybe the artist didn't get her royalties on this, but it wasn't me. It wasn't me that bought this. I just am taking the opportunity to have a look at it. So this is a review and therefore to some extent promotion for the deck. So I don't feel bad that I'm actually handling what looks like it might be a bit of a knockoff. It's bridge size and there's no accompanying book, so not sure. The quality of the reproduction is absolutely fine, so let's have a look. This deck is made by a lady called Rachel True, and there she is. And Rachel True is actually an American actress, and I believe, let me Google this, she is known for being in a very popular cult movie. Okay, so she was in The Craft, wasn't she, in 1996. Anyway, now she's given us this lovely tarot deck. So let's have a look. Let's flick through it while I talk about it. Colours are very nice. The draftsmanship's very nice. The deck was actually co-designed by Rachel True and artist Stephanie Singleton. Okay. So here we go, Major Arcana. It's highly decorative, which I think is a great thing. I'm into decorative decks. And the lines on the designs are quite fine. I think the lines might be slightly too fine for my taste. I like tarots which have big, thick lines. There's quite a lot of detail in these images. What I like about it is that there's quite a lot of empty space as well, even though there's a lot of detail. But I find because of the finely worked quality of the images, they don't all exactly jump out at you. Now the deck skews quite strongly female. The Major Arcana has got 12 cards with solo female characters, 4 cards with solo male characters, and I think 5 cards where you either have a couple or you have no people. So, you know, it's, in a sense, it does come across as a woman's deck. Quite right too, if that's what you're looking for. That's very nice, isn't it? I think the colours are pretty cool. And so far, you know, we are all the symbolism that one would want to find in a tarot pack is there. It's not always obviously there. Here, for example, in the World card, you know, you have the 4 evangelists, don't you? And 2 of them are in her hair, and 2 of them are on her earrings. So we've got a Leo and a Taurus, and an eagle for Scorpio, and a head for Aquarius. But do you see what I mean about the lines being quite fine? Because the outlines are drawn with quite a fine pen, it's not always extremely easy to see what the details are. And it may be that there are too many details, and it may be that it might have been a more readable deck. There'd been less information on each card so that the eye can sort of rest. There is a certain amount of wallpaper on these cards, which, you know, I think is very pretty. And if it works for you, if it puts you into the right mood for reading tarot, then, you know, whatever it takes, then it's your deck. Now this is Rider-Waite-Smith derivative. I remember looking at this deck a couple of years ago and liking it quite a lot and having one or two reservations about it. I think I began to become a bit suspicious when I got to this card, and I wondered why he was on a rock floating in space with an eye looking through at him. But it's the Four of Cups, isn't it? So that is the eye of God or the eye of the angel, I suppose, that is suggesting to him there is something more. But I guess what I want to say is that this deck is very imaginative and does its own thing, and I question whether that's what I personally want from tarot packs. I almost want to... I'm going to have a naughty pile where I put cards that I think have gone too far away from RWS. I think that one's okay. You know, the figure is clearly upset by the upset cups and hasn't seen the two behind her. Here, I think the imagination of these two designers, it does run very freely, but I think in some cases the problem is that you get sort of interference between different tarot cards. And, you know, I actually think that the best thing to do if you're in the RWS system is to stay in that system. And so I think it's probably safer to stay in the garden. Here we have ships on an ocean. And I want to tell you later on that when we get to the Three of Battens, where we really want ships on an ocean, we don't quite get them. And so I think it feels like some of the images have slipped from one card to another. And I, as a tarot reader, find that is quite confusing when that happens in tarot packs. Seven of Cups, that's nice, but what's in the cups? Because of the way it's arranged, you don't get a good view of what is sitting in those cups. So the focus of attention isn't quite on the focus of symbolism. That's a nice Eight of Cups. That's a nice Nine of Cups. And that's a very nice Ten of Cups. The aces are always nice. A lovely two. And here's the Three of Battens, which has been worrying me. The figure who is enterprising and who is doing a bit of trade and has sent some stuff out over the oceans in a ship and is waiting for the exchanged goods to come back in another ship. But the ships, ladies and gentlemen, have become very, very small, almost like the RWS imagery is an afterthought and is very subservient to the flights of fancy of Rachel True and her co-designer. Yeah, I think there's a problem with that card, the Four of Battens, which is that for some reason she's focused on a couple. And so now we have a kind of like some interference coming through from the Two of Cups. And I really think if you're going to learn tarot, or if you already know tarot and you're up and running with the RWS system, you don't want that kind of confusion. So I think that might be the first candidate for my full-on naughty pile. It's the Five of Battens, and although it's clearly inauspicious what's happening there, a Gorgon, I don't really think it conveys the Five of Battens as we know it from the RWS system. Okay, here, and that is a Six of Battens. And I would say also it's in my naughty pile. That's too far away from the Six of Battens for my taste. Seven of Battens, interesting. Eight, rather fun. And nine. Now, I'm sure that means something to the two designers, but again, for me, the Nine of Battens in the RWS system has a very clear and distinct meaning. And I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Now, I'm not referring to the guidebook, partly because I don't have it, but partly because I think when you're reading tarot, when I'm reading tarot anyway, it's quite a fast process. It's quite about the intuitive mind picking up and maybe even channeling things sort of at high speed. And no way do I, as someone who's been reading for a time, no way do I really want to be referring to a book. So for me, an RWS deck has to look like an RWS deck. And again, I'm afraid that's going on my no pile. I'm not quite sure where that comes from. It's pretty, but for me, that's not really a 10 of battens as I do the 10 of battens. You know, there are people who say, like Robert M. Place says, that the tarot, that all tarots are different, and when you buy a tarot deck, you need to read the book, find out what the artist's intention was, and go with that. I have to say I profoundly disagree. I think life's too short. Certainly the way I read tarot, I need tarot to be a known alphabet of hieroglyphs that mean certain things, that are clusters of meaning. So I can put them down. I mean, that for me is absolutely fine as an RWS 7 of Swords. This person has clearly stolen the swords, is hiding the swords behind their back, got their fingers crossed behind their back. Excellent. And even up there are some foxes. This is a foxy little scheme that's going on here. It's cunning, isn't it? That's a great 7 of Swords. And I think that 9's very nice, and I think that 10's pretty good. Last suit, the discs as they're called here. All the aces are good in this deck. I think that's not so far away, but I think it's a pity that there is no designing or building or planning obviously going on there, that there's collaboration, but I find that a bit confusing. Similarly, you know, it's nice that there's a giant butterfly there, but I don't find that very 4 of Pentacles E. And that's getting too much into surrealism. And as I say, if you're Robert Place, then you know, that's your thing. Every tarot pack is different, and we need to relearn it every time. But I'm not quite in line with that. That's a good 6 of coins. And that is a recognisable 7 of coins, but I think I would find it off-putting that there are heads lying around. And again, I've referred to this phenomenon of interference. The heads lying around on the ground is a symbol from the death card. And also, I mean, heads lying around on the ground and a sun in the background, those are 2 images from the death card. And I find it a bit disturbing to find that in the 7 of coins. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with having a pregnant lady, but again, that is a symbol that is normally found in the Empress. Things are being adjusted here, and there's no law against that. It just depends on how you feel about tarot design as a thing. That's a nice 8 of coins, a nice 9, and a nice 10. Now, I've left the court cards to last because I think court cards are a thing in themselves. Quite a nice solution. These designers, what have they done is they've got princesses who are sort of taking the role of pages, I would say, in this deck. You've got princes who are taking the role of knights, and then you've got your kings and your queens. So it's not a Thoth arrangement where you don't have any kings. With Thoth, I think it's queen, knight, prince, princess, isn't it? Which I think in Thoth is very confusing. But I think this is not a bad solution, and it makes it more gender balanced. So let's have a look at them. Again, we've got these fine lines, which may be your thing. They are very pretty. Those are the 4 princesses. And the colours are great, aren't they? 4 knights. A knight riding a phoenix, I think. And I think the designers are quite right. It is important that knights are riding something because that distinguishes them from the other ranks. They somehow have some sort of energy coming from another being, don't they? some very pretty queens. And some very pretty kings. I like the colour palette and I do like the design, and I could have been tempted to work with this deck. Personally, just to show you what's in my naughty pile, it's really only, actually no. Okay, so it's 5 cards, which is quite a lot out of 78. We've got 5 of coins, 10 of battens, 9 of battens, 6 of battens, and 5 of battens. So the battens family are well represented in my naughty pile. Now, I would just finish by saying I think this is a lovely piece of work, and I think that it's great that it's out there. Would I recommend it as a beginner's deck? I don't think I would, because I think it's, for your own sanity, it's important that you start with a deck that is, either clearly Marseille or clearly RWS or clearly Thoth. And if you start with something that's sort of a hybrid or in between those basic formats, it'll make your life more difficult further on down the line. It is the case that if you adore a deck like this, which is not entirely along traditional lines, well, what you can do is you can get this deck, get the guidebook, and then make it your only deck. And then you can branch out from there, clearly. So I'm not saying this isn't a good tarot. I'm just sounding a word of caution and just really giving my views about tarot design in general, and talking about the whole issue of, learning the meanings of these cards, working with decks, getting up and running, getting quick, getting in depth. That's really what I'm saying. But anyway, it's been a pleasure. You have been watching Robert Farrar's Tea and Tarot. I will be back next week with more of this stuff. Bye.